All right, ladies and gentlemen, super excited to have this next guest on the show. Been a fan of his for many, many years, probably since shortly after he started his career in 2002. The man has been a top contender and or champion wherever he has fought, and we're so happy to have our first chance here to speak with the man they call the Truth, Brandon Vera. Welcome to the show, Brandon.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me. Thanks for getting back to me. I appreciate it. Sorry.
Not a problem. It's my pleasure, man. Good morning to you. I know you're on a different time zone than us. And speaking of which, man, you have spent a lot of time in different places. I know that you lived, I think, in California for a while, and you're spending some time in the Philippines and maybe some time in Singapore. Are you going back and forth between places, or what do you call home nowadays, if there is one place?
You know, I would say home is the world.
Yep.
And we just kind of are vagabond travelers working throughout it.
I like that.
You know, it's, man, we have a couple home bases. We have base 1 in Guam, base 2 in the Philippines, and all the different families' houses that are bases in the mainland U.S. So we're just traveling and living a very blessed life, you know, traveling, training, teaching seminars, speaking at different engagements, doing endorsement deals, endorsement shoots, getting to do commercials. Like, we're definitely blessed. We're definitely blessed. So I can't complain, and it's not an easy life. Like, it sounds like IG hashtagable.
Right.
If you don't see it, everything goes into it. You know, the travel hours, the missed flights, the connecting flights, the waiting, the no food, yeah. But
Yep.
You know what, man? I would never in a million years, an infinite number of years, ever trade what I do for anything else.
Absolutely. And that's really important, man, having that great attitude. And I think you always had that. And that's what really makes life better, when you appreciate what you have. I thought of something that I probably wasn't the first person to think of, the saying, but I remember thinking of something years ago that appreciate what you have, because if not, you could and probably will soon have less.
Absolutely correct.
Yep.
Be thankful for what you got.
Yep. So let me ask you, Brandon, you're the heavyweight champion over at One Championship. We were on a great conference call today. Super excited to see something that was scheduled last year, but the pandemic ended up interfering with it. But we are going to see, right, One Championship on U.S. television, live, TNT, Turner Network Television. Ted Turner does it again. Yep. And it's going to be awesome. Wednesday night. There's no other combat sport that has Wednesday shows. And so this is going to be great. It sounds like you're really excited. And I bet you are, because I really think there's got to be an audience here in the USA above the one that already knows about it that'll be excited about One Championship. I'm sure you'd agree.
I agree with you 1,000%. You know, it is, One Championship is a different animal. It's just different. I think Eddie Alvarez said it best when he came over. He said, Mr. Alvarez said that, you know, the U.S. is ahead and the rest of the world is ahead in jiu-jitsu, and the U.S. is ahead in wrestling. He said, but the striking art, the striking aspect of One Championship is a whole different animal that he's never seen before. And when he said that, man, it made me smile, because in all honesty, in this game of pugilism and combat, of seeing who's better than the other that day, the fans want to find out. Absolutely. In the center of that circle, who's better. And the favorite, the fan favorite, is always the KO. They always want to see the knockout.
Yep.
That's what One Championship brings by default. People in Asia don't play around. They're not trying to be famous, not trying to buy yachts, not trying to buy planes, trying to eat, trying to build a legacy for their family to be proud of. There's a different mentality, and it shows in the combatants and the athletes. So I'm very excited that the U.S. finally gets to see it live
Absolutely. I am too. And I'm a lifelong martial artist, and everyone that knows that martial arts is something that started in the Far East, and the culture, even though we've enjoyed it ever since Bruce Lee started turning us on to it in the 1960s, right? Asia, 100 years before that, 200 years before that, people were martial artists and knew what it meant. In fact, I remember, funny enough, man, I'm sure you've seen it. You know, I think you're a student of the game. There are very few Bruce Lee interviews out there, and I'm sure you've seen the one with that kind of older Canadian guy with gray hair, right? Talking to him. It was like a 40-minute or 30-minute interview. And I remember, and it was like 1972, and I remember when the guy asked this question honestly after Bruce had said something about martial arts. He said, "What exactly is martial arts?" Right? And if you right, and if you really think about it, now someone who's really young will laugh, look at that and say, well, how could that old guy have been so stupid? Well, it really wasn't that stupid, right? In 1972 in North America, I would say, what would you say, maybe 80% of people didn't know what martial arts meant or was?
More than that, yeah.
Yeah, maybe 90, yeah.
More than that.
Yeah, you know, right? And so, you know, and Bruce was very respectful and explained it to him in a great way that Bruce Lee always did. But yeah, in the East, people have known what martial arts meant for many, many, many years, several centuries. And so, yeah, it really is the home of striking and martial arts and technique. And, you know, one of the interesting things about the fighters that you guys have over at One Championship is you guys have fighters from so many countries. There's like countries that many people have never even heard of. That
Yes.
Where you guys have fighters over there from, and it's like, what the heck? I would never heard of that. I mean, even, you know, I mean, like it's just a great diversity and variety of fighters, and they're so hungry and they have such a tradition. I know today in the global media conference call, Demetrius Johnson, Mighty Mouse, said that right, the guy who he's fighting coming up for the title has been a martial artist, I think, since he was like, you know, longer than him, since he was like 5 years old. And I think that that's something that you'll find in a lot of the fighters over there. They've been martial artists pretty much all their life. I think probably like yourself.
Yeah, right when they can walk, they start training.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's definitely a dedicated group in a different scene. And I like the fact that you guys have the women fighters as well, that you also have Muay Thai, and you also have kickboxing.
All gloves.
With no gloves?
Small gloves.
Oh, small gloves, right, exactly. Oh, that's not, yeah, absolutely. You know what, man? I know that One Championship isn't doing this, but let me ask you, what do you think about that crazy sport over in Burma, the one, what's it called? The World Lethwei. Yeah. What do you think about that, man? Is that a crazy thing? Is that a good thing? Is that something that you would ever say if someone said, "Hey, Brandon, I got a chance to make some money over at World Lethwei"? Would you say, "Dude, you got to be out of your mind," or would you say, "Hey, this could be an interesting option"?
You know, I think that Lethwei is an amazing animal, but I don't think that it would be for the consumer combat sports market. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Especially for the money that those guys, for what those guys do not get paid for what those guys do. No. I don't care. The top earner doesn't get paid.
Yeah.
For what he's doing.
Yeah. You know,
if for some reason Lethwei started paying athletes like a ridiculous livable wage, I would say, you know, that would be cool to try out. Are you kidding me? That's new to me.
Yeah.
That's definitely something not for the faint of heart.
No.
That's not a place where you go try to see if you're good at it. When you go in there, you have to understand.
Yeah.
This is a different animal when you walk in that thing.
Absolutely. That's why when the former UFC fighter who was in the Ultimate Fighter, Seth Baczynski, I think it was, when he went over there like 2 years ago, man, either he's crazy or he has balls of steel, because he went over there and they put him against a guy who I think was a former champion who had like 20 fights and literally got the crap beaten out of him. But I guess you got to give the guy credit and respect for being willing to do that. That's a guy probably that doesn't understand the meaning of fear as the old saying says.
Dude. Or maybe he didn't know what Lethwei really was.
That could have been it. That could have been it. But yeah, that's that.
Was.
Yeah, but that I have a feling also they'd probably never be able to get any television contracts in the United States to show that. And yeah,
that would be pay-per-view, like premium. But see, that's another problem that would be a problem for America, not the rest of the world. If you started showing Lethwei on TV, the American kids start tying ropes around and start hurting each other.
Yeah.
They would start trying that. Yeah.
That is true. I could see it. Yeah, that'd be bad. Kids would look at that and walk over.
America,
yeah, I can see a kid walk over to his little sister and hit her in the head with an elbow or something like that. You know, yeah that'd be a bad situation. But yeah, absolutely. Well, Brandon, let me ask you, man, you are doing well over there. You're fighting at heavyweight. I think you've had some fights at light heavyweight, but I think heavyweight is more your home there, or are you still feeling like you could go back and forth?
No, we're at heavyweight. I'm not cutting weight anymore. Unless there's a $5 million check attached to the light heavyweight, something.
Yep.
I'm not going to have light heavyweight no more.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
No, thank you.
And that's one of the good things that I'm sure you'll agree, and this is something that actually I feel pretty strongly with. A lot of people don't know that even though the weight classes have the same names as American organizations, they're actually 10 pounds heavier. The reason being is that we have fighters that are pretty depleted and dehydrated. I'm sure you probably remember years back, even when you were younger, fighting at light heavyweight, you get up there and your lips are sticking together because you're so dehydrated. And right. Right, exactly. Like you're barely able to, to stand on the scale. And one really made a statement, I think, early on, in that they were just not going to mess with that. They were going to put in strict rules that if you tried to do that, you'd be disqualified because of the level of dehydration. So in reality, I think, and obviously there may be some people that are dehydrating to a certain point, but I would say a majority of your fighters they're just really not dehydrated at all, or if so, barely, to be able to make the fight. So everyone is really fighting at a weight that they have their full strength, aren't they?
Yes, sir. Every athlete is actually just competing at their competition, their walk-around weight. One championship a long time ago was discouraging athletes from doing the old school water weight cuts because, man, it's bad for your brain long-term. It has damaging effects on all of your internal organs, and it's just not safe. So they adopted the hydration method, and I'm pretty sure this is the same method that the colleges in the United States are using for the wrestling programs, where when you weigh in, you have to give a urine sample.
Yep.
To be checked at the table before you're allowed on the scale. So you have to pass your hydration test before you weigh in. And that's unheard of in this sport, And one championship started it in the realm of mixed martial arts, and I am very appreciative that they did. That's another reason why the level of talent and the level that athletes can bring to the game that evening on the event night is because of the hydration test. They're not out there falling around, going hard one round and then tired second, third, fourth, fifth round. Nah, it's not like that. It's different one.
Yeah, and that's very important, very, very important for the safety of the fighters. For there's so many things I'm going to ask you because you've been in this game for so long, and up front and firsthand so many different experiences. But let me ask you, speaking about this, what does it actually feel like when you're in an MMA fight? And even though you got to drink and eat for 30 hours or 36 hours, you had just spent like an entire week dehydrating. And what does that feel like, man? It's got to be kind of an unpleasant, weird feeling. A lot of people probably will never know. What does that feel like?
Feels like, I would say, the closest I can come to describe for everyone to understand is like, have you ever fought someone in your dream.
Someone
That's exactly what it feels like when you have to deplete your body.
Yeah.
You put everything back in it. That's exactly what your body feels like after the first round.
Gotcha.
It's like you're dreaming, fighting.
Like you're dreaming.
You're almost
right. Wow.
Yes, sir. You're punching, but it's not hard. It seems like you're moving, but it doesn't seem fast enough. It's just like a dream. It's like you're fighting in a dream and you can't win. You're going uphill the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, but a lot of people don't know, some do, that if you're still having the effects of a hard long weight cut and dehydrated, that the synovial fluid in your brain is lower than it should be, and you actually are much more susceptible to being knocked down or knocked out with punches to the head. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't get. But what's the difference in feeling when you're totally hydrated and being punched in the head hard, and when you're not hydrated pretty much at all and being punched in the head? What's the difference in how that feels and how you react?
So basically, just being dehydrated, period, is bad for you, and it messes with your cognitive thinking process, along with everything else, plus your fast twitch muscles, which that you actually need. And I'm glad you brought this up, because being dehydrated as an athlete and then taking concussive blows to the head, that fluid in there, that barrier fluid in there between your brain and your skull, is what helps stop the impact, and it helps stop long-term scarring problems. And there's an athlete right now with a certain organization that's having problems because he's dealing with a lot of problems on his brain from scarring. And he was an athlete who cut a lot of weight and went to war for this company many, many times. So I'm hoping that company takes care of him, and I'm really hoping that that guy pulls through and does well. I know his wife's been taking care of him for a really long time already, and it's just getting harder. But
yeah,
what we're talking about right now is a very serious problem, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree, and it is something that is really, really important, man, because it's just the thought of someone giving their all, blood, sweat, and tears, and having to fight under difficult situations that are borderline dangerous, or I guess dangerous, but nevertheless, the bottom line is it's sad when someone ends up having terrible damage and don't have the money to take care of themselves. Kind of my thought is the same thing with veterans. I always hate to imagine that a veteran has to be sleeping in a tent, or even living in the worst, crappiest apartment in the worst neighborhood after putting his or her life on the line. I think that shouldn't be the case.
Man, I just became an even bigger fan of you now.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Very, very mutual, man. Let me ask you, Brandon, you're welcome. So you have been a fighter in your 20s, your 30s, and now your 40s. I've got a question for you. I believe that the amount of experience and the mindset absolutely makes a difference. Now, obviously, if you were to look at age 25 compared to someone who's older than you, say like 47 or 8, probably the mindset of the older fighter can help, but he's probably not necessarily going to be the 25-year-old version of himself, especially if he was well trained or really a top of the line guy, although it's possible. But even that stated, what are some of the things that changed for you as far as your attitude, how you trained, and just what kind of a fighter you were, let's say between age 25, let's say 25 you started, you were 25 as a pro. Let's say your first 3 years as a pro, and then let's say 10 years after that, and then whatever, 7-8 years after that right now. What are some of the differences that we saw in Brandon Vera at those different ages?
So I think for me, for everybody, the biggest difference from the beginning of this to even today is the training, from techniques to coaching styles, and science that is being used. When you first started, you would go 30 rounds, 5 minutes, beat the hell out of each other, and whoever survives at the end of the day is the winner.
Right.
Hey, tomorrow, you do the same thing. You just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And you would just switch. One day would be boxing, one day would be wrestling, one day would be kickboxing, one day would be Muay Thai with no elbows. You know, that's how it was back in the day. You know, just a bunch of tough guys trying to get good, watching videos and just drilling stuff.
For sure.
Move forward a little bit more. I would be competing with wild, reckless abandon. No game plan. You know, I really didn't have a game plan except for hurting the person in front of me. Like, right. my game plan when I first started competing was, if you hit me, I have to hit you back twice. Right. And harder. Right. That's old school Muay Thai. You know, that was my game plan back in the day.
Yep.
Learning combinations so that I didn't have to think about them. They could just happen normally. Fast forward 10 years, we'll say I'm in the midst of my career. You know, life is happening. Everything from personal problems to financial problems to me being a lazy ass, not training, falling off and kind of not caring anymore, to having to find myself, showing up to practice, I would say 3 days a week instead of 5 or 6. Fast forward to now, I'm on the Aerodyne every other day with nobody even telling me to be. Nice. I'm doing bad work. I'm doing bad work on my own. Mm-hmm. Just drills that I know I need to be doing. We only go hard for 25 to 30 minutes of work time. Mm-hmm. Each training session. So if the training session is an hour and a half, 1 hour to hour and a half, let's say 15 minutes is warm up, 30 minutes is drilling. Another 30 minutes or 25 minutes to 30 minutes is hard work. And even at 30 minutes, it's only 25 minutes. Is that right? Yeah, yep. 30 minutes is only 25 minutes. So, because I get 1 minute break. So we're maximizing the time spent when everything has to be focused, and then we're just sharpening the sword the rest of the time. Makes sense. I'll train 2 or 3 times a day. Not during camp. Only during camp. Not camp. I'll probably train once or twice a day.
Gotcha. Very cool. So just training smarter and having a game plan, you know, is a big difference. Yeah.
Have a game plan now.
yeah, absolutely. Do you have a fight scheduled yet here in 2021? Or if not, I imagine you're hoping for one very soon.
I do have a fight scheduled here, 2021.
Can you tell us, or is it still under wraps?
I cannot tell you because I just signed the contract.
Okay.
Before we got on the call, I actually just signed it and sent it back. So
okay. Well, we'll
wait for them. But yes.
Say again. I'm sorry.
We have to wait for them to announce or give me the go ahead to announce. But yes, sir. Yes,
absolutely.
Sir. 2021.
Sounds great. Well, we're excited to see you. Well, we've got about 4 minutes left with you, Brandon. I've still got a few different questions, so let me throw you some rapid-fire questions. I appreciate it. You can give me some quick answers. The first one is, I think for quite a while you were training at Alliance, and I think you were one of the original guys at Alliance in San Diego, weren't you?
That's my gym.
That's your gym. I thought so. I was going to say, you created that, huh?
Yes, sir. It was me a long time ago. I wanted a place where nobody would have any attitude. People would have to come in and just train. No politics, no BS. No, you're from this gym or you're from that camp. Man, just come train with us. Have a good time.
And you've had so many great guys over there along with yourself, Dominic Cruz, Jeremy Stevens, I think Phil Davis. What are some of the other names of people that have been training at Alliance regularly, or at least have been there in and out for a while?
Everyone. Both Noguera brothers, Junior Dos Santos, Andre Gaval, man, Mike Chandler,
Nice.
Coach Neal. Dude, there's been so many guys coming in and out of there. One of the guys won $1 million tournament. He trains out of our gym.
Nice.
He's a 205. Emiliano, yeah.
Nice.
Man, it's just a lot of, man, it's like the who's who of what's what in MMA. So, yeah, I am very proud to be part of Alliance Training Center.
Yeah.
And, you know, it goes through its traditions like any other gym, but one thing that's consistent, Alliance will always be there somewhere around the world, whether it be Philippines, Guam, or in the States. It's going to be somewhere in the world.
Yeah, without a doubt. I really think so. I think that in just a handful of prominent gyms that have really good people, I think you guys are in there with the likes of AKA and ATT and, you know.
So many things,
yeah.
Man, the leg taker. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Tell me, what were your favorite fights back in the day in your career? Did you have any opponents that you really enjoyed fighting? I mean, you fought some of the absolute legends like yourself. And what were real quick? What were a couple of your favorite fights? Who were a couple of your favorite guys to fight, or who were a couple of the guys that you fought that you have the most respect for overall?
Everyone that I've met in the center, I have the utmost respect for. That's including the guys that took steroids and the guys that cheated, you know, because even with that stuff, you have to make that long walk, and you have to understand that it's just going to be you inside there no matter what. So I respect everyone. My most favorite fights from back in the day, I would say, would be my Randy Couture and my Shogun Rua fight.
Yes.
Most recent favorite was definitely Ung La Ang Sa.
yeah, absolutely. Ung La. Now, if he wanted to come, that fight with Ung La was at light heavyweight, right?
Yeah.
Do you think you'd be able to tempt him to try to jump up to heavyweight and see what he can do against you?
Hey, George. No, you know, I don't know, because Mr. Ung La, he told me, he said he had to eat so much just to keep weight on.
Right.
To be anywhere near 205 or light heavyweight, you know?
Right.
So I don't know if he'll ever come up to heavyweight.
Yeah, that would be a huge eating binge. It might not be functional weight if he had that on. Yeah. Well, last thing, Brandon, what could you tell an upcoming fighter who may be in a position where he's maybe just turned pro, and let's say he's like 2-2, or he's 1-1, or even if he's 2-0, but he's having a hard time getting fights or making any money? What can you tell a guy who maybe wants to try to make this happen as a career, but right now isn't really getting a lot of big offers, isn't with a big gym that has, you know, great, you know, reputable coaches or big names in it, but wants to be somewhere? What advice can you give to a guy who feels like he wants to make this happen, but he's kind of struggling to be able to get where he feels he needs to be?
So my advice for everyone wanting to become mixed martial artist: become an amazing tier 1 class A level mixed martial artist. Your story, whatever it may be, is not original. You're not the only one with those problems. You're not the only one with a crazy girlfriend or crazy boyfriend. You're not the only one with la 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 la.
Yep.
We've all do it. Listen, we weren't famous. We didn't start with coaches who knew how to coach world-class athletes. We just wanted this more than anything else in our lives. No excuses could hold us back. No borders from any country or in the world internationally could stop us from going to go get it. And it sounds real cliche, but there's nothing I can do to fix your situation. Only you can fix your situation. If you want this bad enough, you have to figure it out. Yeah, it's impossible. Yeah, you're broke. Yeah, training sucks. Yeah, the girls hate you right now because you're always training her. Yeah, I know all the problems. I know everything you're going through. If you can't figure that out, there's no way you're ever going to become a tier 1 athlete. Just go ahead and stop. To those who have reaffirm themselves, stone themselves steadfast, stay on this course, you're the one I'm going to be watching when I retire. Good luck on your journey. I love you guys, and thank you for the sacrifices that you're giving for our sport that we love so much. All right, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brandon Vera. Huge respect for you, my friend. Thank you so much for your time, man. It's been a pleasure. Can't wait to see you fight in 2021.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.